Hello there, my name is Mihai and I'm part of the development team here at QiTASC. In this video I'm going to show you some tips and tricks in intaQ Studio that will help you when you develop your own intaQ test cases. For this I have an intaQ project and I want to open a feature file. This I can do by navigating to one of the feature files that I have inside the project. For example, temperature reading, but with larger projects we might not always know where our feature files are located, so it's useful to have a shortcut to search for feature files or whatever files by their names. For this I'm going to use Ctrl+Shift+N and just type the temperature reading feature, and you see it auto-completes and finds the file that I need. Pressing enter will direct me to that feature file. Now, let's assume we're just starting to implement these feature files. I'll just go ahead and comment those lines out. I do this with the Ctrl/ shortcut. So Ctrl/, it's used to toggle and untoggle comments for lines. As we said, we assume we're just starting on this feature file and we have to fill in the steps that are relevant for our test case execution. Of course, with big projects, we don't always know which steps we have at our disposal, so we need some sort of help when navigating through the project to find the stuff that we need. One option here is to search throughout the full project with Ctrl+Shift+F and start typing parts of the step that we know. So for example, if we know we have a read temperature step, we just write read temp and it will search me inside the files of the project and find me something. Of course, this is not the only way, and there is a better one. With Ctrl dot, if we're searching specifically for step definitions, we will get a fuzzy search on the steps. So if you know parts of the steps that you're going to use, like in my example when I write read from, it searches me through all the step tips that it can find in projects and matches the best possible ones that it can find for me. Usually we don't search that much for step tips because there is another feature that we have at our disposal. So step tips are auto-completed when we start typing inside our project. So if I type the given keyword, then start typing the step definitions that I need. So read temperature from, by pressing enter I confirm my search, and now I have to fill in the arguments that are needed for these step definitions. So I do this now, called thermostat state display, and as soon as I'm done completing one of the arguments, I just press tab and it will automatically jump to the next argument that I have to fill in, which is temperature. Okay, good. So now that I've shown you how autocompletion works, we can come back to our initial file, and you might be wondering what happens if I have a typo inside one of my step definitions. Would I see this only at runtime, or is it shown to me somehow? And the answer is there are some inspections. So if I mistype step definitions, like if I start typing one step that doesn't exist, it will mark it as unresolvable and it will somehow be read. Always check this icon here in the corner of the editor. If it is red, then it means there is a problem inside our files. It's definitely a good marker to check for. If it's a green checker, then it's everything it's okay. Great. So one trick that I want to show you now inside the editor is most of the cases we have for scenario outlines multiple examples. So usually we start by typing one of the examples manually, then we want to copy this line, paste it, and then do some adaptations on it and not start typing everything again and again. This works multiple ways. I want to show you some easier way to do it. So for example, if you're on a line and press Ctrl+C, it will automatically copy the full line for you, and if you then from wherever you are in the line, press Shift Enter, it will jump to the next line. Pressing Ctrl V there will paste the content that we just copied in the last step. Yet another better way is to just be on the line and press Ctrl D, which will simply duplicate the current line that we have. The opposite of it, if you want to delete the full line, is just Ctrl Y, and this will delete it. Okay, let's go back to what we initially had. This goes with Ctrl Z to undo changes and Ctrl Shift Z to just redo changes. And let's imagine we want to execute the second example first, so before the first example. And in order to move lines, we use Shift Alt and up and down. So with this combination, I'm able to move one line or to select multiple lines which I want to move up or down in my file. Maybe one of the most important aspects and something very useful in supporting us when developing test cases is the fact that the platform resolves references to step definitions. So for example, read temperature is a custom step definition, and if I want to go to its declaration, I can just be on with my cursor on the step and press Ctrl B, which will jump directly to its declaration. The counterpart, so if I'm at the declaration side, I can find usages of these step definitions across the full project, again by pressing Ctrl B. This also works if you keep Ctrl pressed and hover with the mouse across the step definition, and when you click on it, it has the same effect. It jumps to its declaration, and the other way around, it finds usages. Something else is that if you document your step definitions, so you've seen here the comment above the step definitions, this is interpreted as documentation for the step def, and there is a shortcut to show this documentation where you use the step def. So pressing Ctrl Q will show you a quick documentation and will display here everything that you write in the comment above the step definition. Next, in our list, let's check web test file. You see there is always a nice structure in the files, and you should keep it that way because the code reads better when you have the proper indentation and not when you're having your code misaligned. So for example, if I had something like this in my code, it would be harder to read it, of course, but there is a shortcut that will reformat the code automatically. So if I press Ctrl Alt L, it will realign the lines in a nice way so that they can read better. I've talked a bit about references for step definitions. Just for you to know, references also work inside web test files and soap test files. So I'm here, you see, I call await search form view, and this references a view that's defined in somewhere inside my project. In this case, it's in the same file, so you can also see that it's highlighted properly. So when two pairs are highlighted or multiple items are highlighted, means that they belong together. So there is a reference from this guy to the other guy, and navigating from declaration to usage, it works the same way as in feature files with the Ctrl B or Ctrl and mouse hover shortcut. Apart from that, we also have inspections here. So if I'm trying to reference an unknown view inside the web test file, it will again mark it in red and say, hey, you have an error in there. Usually when we have big projects, we want to modify stuff in there, so it's not like you write a view and it remains like that forever. You might want, for example, to refactor it and rename it to something else because you find a better name. There is a possibility. So for example, if you're inside the same file, you can use search and replace with Ctrl-Shift-R, and you can find where it's defined and replace it inside the full project. But this is error prone and it's not the best way to do it. So When we have references, we have support for rename refactoring. So if you press Shift F6 on the usage side or on the declaration side, we can rename now this view to my view, for example. And it will search all the references and all the usages that it has and rename them accordingly, okay? And this also works with local parameters. So for example, I have this query, I can rename it to query2, and you see here it got renamed as well. Another use case that we have very often is when we have to modify multiple things at the same time. Let's assume I had 4 actions in here. I just duplicate it, and of course it marks it as an error because we can't define the same action with the same name. And I want to change the type of the action from content to type everywhere. I can do this for each item, but it would take me more time. Or I can use so-called multiple cursors. So if I press Shift and Alt and click on different places inside the editor, it will create multiple cursors so that I can just modify everything in one. Okay, let's go back. Another tip is usually we leave to-dos in the code when we develop it. For example, if there is something that has to be fixed or that has to be done in a better way, but we can't do it at that moment, if we leave a to-do, like fix me. If you have these to-dos spread around the project, it's not that nice to find them, but the platform has a way to find those to-dos in our code. As you see here, there is a line 6, a to-do with the text fix inside the Google Web Test file, and if I double click on it, it will jump directly to that file. I have everything in one place. If I delete this, meantime, when we fix the to-dos, they will start disappearing from this list. Great. Next point, live templates. Apart from auto-completion that we get with the platform, there are also live templates that we can use. I'll show you where they are defined. So inside the settings, I can search here for live templates and choose the intact legacy languages. So there are a few of them for eFun mode. So let's check the mode one. What this means is if you start typing mode in your editor, it will offer you a suggestion to complete with a model, and it will autocomplete this template that you define here where you can leave placeholders. So let's check this out. So if I want to define a model, I just write mode, press tab, and it will autocomplete me the full structure that I need, and I just type my model. Pressing tab will go right to where I have to start typing next. Inside models, you have functions. So again, there is a live template for it. You just type fun, press tab, it will autocomplete you the structure. Name it myfunc. And press tab. You can also complete the arguments, like argument 1, argument 2, and when you're ready, press tab and it will go right where you have to start implementing the function. The nice thing is you're not constrained by what the platform has. You can extend it or modify it as you please, so you can add your own live templates for the things that you use over and over, and it will make it easier, especially in big projects. Some people like working in parallel for feature files and the implementation of the step devs. So the editor can be used in split views. So if I click here, I can split vertically or horizontally, and I will get to see both files that I'm currently editing at the same time. Personally, I don't use that much, but it's nice for implementing stuff like this. This pretty much covers it. Just to know, there are many other stuff that you can try in the platform, a lot of whole many shortcuts that you might find useful. If you go inside the settings, you can change the shortcut to your best needs and not rely on the platform defaults. yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video and hope this was helpful for you. See you next time. Thank you.